we move forward today. I work with the Union of Concerned Scientists. We've been around 50 years looking at the intersection of science and society and policy. We've done a lot of work recently looking at how science and politics mix or don't mix over the past couple of decades. And I think a lot of the time when people think about federal government science, they think about NASA and the discovery work that they do. They think about the National Institutes of Health and cancer research, but they don't think as much about the Consumer Product Safety Commission and work that they do to ensure that kids' strollers are safe. They don't talk about the U.S. Geological Survey and the work that they do on climate monitoring and climate systems and all of the great federal scientists, servants who are out there working to protect public health and safety. Federal government science is vast and really hard to quantify at this point, the types of different work that scientists do. And we also know that science becomes a political football when the results are inconvenient, when certain policymakers don't like what they are hearing. There's a tendency to suppress and distort and manipulate information or not even collect it in the first place. So I think we're going to be talking a lot about today about unpacking the value of different types of scientific research and talking about what gets in the way of public understanding of that research and its utilization in making federal government policy. We know that science has been politicized for a number of years, but we also know that attacks are currently unprecedented both in scope and in severity. So that's kind of the bad news. But the good news is that we're also in a golden era of science activism. This is a time when people are talking about the role of science in policymaking, when scientists more than ever are stepping out of their labs, participating in public life and talking about the value of their research. And so this is not going to be a doom and gloom panel. You're not going to be walking away from here with your head down. You're going to be walking away with a spring in your step because you're going to be hearing about a lot of the work that's being done here in the Capital Region and in Washington, D.C. to stand up for science and to speak about the different ways in which science benefits all of our lives. What we're going to do is each of the panelists here is going to spend a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, talking about what brings them to this stage, why they want to be here, why they're devoting their time and energy to talking about science and society. We have Kathy Curtis, Congressman Tonko, Tomoko Udo, and Jeffrey Corbin, who will each just briefly introduce themselves, and then we're going to have a little bit of interaction among the panelists, and then we're going to open it up to you. And so there will be cards that you have that you can write questions on, people walking around picking up those questions, and I'll integrate those into the question and answer period later on in the agenda. And then the conversation will also be happening online on social media. We have people watching through the webcast, and we have people tweeting with their phones out here in the crowd. So the hashtags science, not silence, was the one that we are going to be using tonight. And please go ahead. So Kathy Curtis with the Clean and Healthy New York organization.
Hi, everybody. And thank you to the Union of Concerned Scientists for bringing this all together. What a great job. So I'm Kathy Curtis. I'm the executive director of Clean and Healthy New York. And our organization works for safer chemicals, a sustainable economy, and a healthier world. And we do that in 4 major ways, one of which is to require disclosure of toxic chemicals. Where are they? What are they in? How are people exposed? We also work for action on these toxic chemicals when the science is sound and we know enough to act to prevent exposure. We also work on innovation. What are the alternatives and how can we shift to a sustainable economy? And we also work on integration with other aspects of the environment that are integrated, like that solid waste, for example, or wildlife impacts and other plastics the oil and chemical, or the oil and gas industry, all of those other aspects. So, but tonight I'm just going to focus on toxic chemicals and not talk about the degradation of wildlife and land and every other, aspect of our environment that's under attack. So we depend entirely on the science that comes out of the federal government or that is funded at universities by the federal government. Who is producing the toxic chemicals? So we have a high production volume program in this country that gives us that information. Who is releasing them? What are they releasing? Where are they releasing chemicals? How much are they releasing? The toxic release inventory documents and reveals all of those. And this is legally permitted releases too. It's not illegal. This is, people got permits and they get to dump into the air and the water, etc. Who is exposed? So how are these chemicals that were never supposed to be inside of any of our bodies getting inside of us with the potential to do harm in the workplaces, communities, cumulatively, disproportionately, even via the products that we use every day, that we clean our homes with, slather onto our skin, and sit on, sleep on, you name it, eat from, or otherwise use daily. So sure, sorry. Got to hit those nickel seats, right? Thank you. So the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey biomonitors, tests thousands of people for a number of chemicals and reveals what are being found in humans. What are the hazards? So what? There's chemicals in our body. What does that mean? Well, the National Toxicology Program, the Integrated Risk Information System, and other government-funded programs reveal those hazards that these chemicals pose. Are they carcinogens? Do they have reproductive impacts? Are they developmental neurotoxicants? All of the diseases and disorders that we read about in the papers all the time, and that in fact are burgeoning, they're growing. And so that independent research at academic institutions is invaluable to determine the hazards of these chemicals. Also, how safe are the alternatives? It's like whack-a-mole. You ban one chemical and another one pops up. You ban one chemical and another one pops up. And they could do that forever. There's 80,000 chemicals in commerce. So we need to look at how to get off of the toxic treadmill and move toward a non-toxic, just, sustainable, circular economy through green chemistry. Everybody's heard that term, right? Green chemistry. That requires a lot of research and a lot of innovation. So despite the limitations of all of those programs that I listed, I really shudder to think of what it would be like if they didn't exist.